193 miles southwest of Cape Point Light, a mere spot in the South Atlantic. A spot that was destined to become a date with destiny on the 18th of February 1982. For those of us who were on board, we never realized what the smoke was going to hold for us, what it had in store for us. Because fate has got a habit of throwing curveballs at you. A spot that marks our sorrow, where often a seagull will cry out in reverence to those the sea has claimed, and dutifully stands guard over our maritime domain. Because the men that they are guarding over had the courage to say, "Send me. I am ready, I'm willing, and I am able to put my life on the line in order for others to have their tomorrow. I give up my today so that you can have your tomorrow and your children can have the future." And out of that, often if you go there and you listen carefully, there are no crosses, white crosses standing row by row. There are no larks flying around, and there are definitely no tracks of lawn that neatly marks a spot. So pay attention to what you hear, and out of the darkness you will hear, "Do you hear us? Do you hear us? I gave my yesterday for your today. Do you hear us? Please do not break faith with us, because we are still on duty and we are still on watch." Eddie McMaster, JP, Smithy and Smithy, Petty Officer Koen, Petty Officer Lotte, Petty Officer Skeets, Benji, I hear you. And we have not broken faith with you. That is the reason why I'm standing here today, to indicate to you that we appreciate the sacrifice that you've made, and we hear you. The dead cannot speak. We have a moral obligation to speak for and on their behalf, and to say to everybody, we will not forget. We will not forget the sacrifices they made in order for us to be here today. On the Wednesday evening, I had completed the last dog watch, 6 to 8, 1800 to 2000, and I went to the June's dining hall to have a cup of tea, and the sailors will tell you our most favorite snack, a peanut butter and jam sandwich. So I sat at the back of the dining hall listening, and two of our famous gunnery colleagues, leading seaman Christy Jacobs and leading seaman Ruben Pochenko, were conducting a prayer service. And I sat at the back drinking my tea and having my chow, and eventually left down to mess 9, because if you do the log dog watch, the next time you're going on watch is the next morning at 4 o'clock. And I went in to go sleep, got into my hammock and fell asleep almost immediately. Some other rascals, here's one of them here, Ricky McGow is here, they were playing Clavias, a popular card game which we normally play, and it's our best form of relaxation on board. But I dropped off to sleep almost immediately. At 0340, Sean Young, who was on watch, on the midnight watch, he came to shake me, and I got up. The SOP was very simple: get up, get dressed, and go to the WT office. Once inside the WT office, you do handing and taking over, check the RAD broadcast, check all the active circuits, TAC PRI, ASW coord, and EW coord, and then once everything, you sign off on the stress log, and then take over the watch formally. But now the problem is that there's about 50 other people that just came on watch, and everybody's rushing to their heads and bathrooms to have a shower before they would go to sleep. Sean didn't do that. He stayed behind in the wireless office, and he made 2 cups of kai. Again, I'm sure you guys know what kai is. It's like a half a cup of condensed milk and 2 heap spoons of cocoa and hot water, and then you drink it piping hot, and that's what warms you up during the night when you're on watch. And while we were standing there and talking, the ship was hit with a tremendous accident-like bang, followed by two lesser bangs. Sean and I were both flung onto the deck, and we looked at each other with trepidation. What was that? Now, you must bear in mind, I was 20 years old, and Sean was just a little bit younger than I was. And there's no leadership around us what to do next. And once we picked ourselves up from the deck, we looked around and we saw that all the communications had slid out on his drawer, so we had no comms, and our job was then to fix it first and to re-establish communications, and that's what we did. So we started with the RAT broadcast and then with MRV3s, and then from there we progressed until eventually we got to the bank of RT2619. And as we completed the first one, we heard the fateful signal that Stompy Williams had been sending out to the rest of the fleet. 02, this is 01. I am sinking. I say again, I am sinking. I spell Sierra, India, November, Kilo, India, November, Golf. Just try to understand the significance of that. And we looked at each other, and Jeff Neal, who was our chief tell, he stepped into the wireless office and he said to us, guys, how's the comm systems? And I was thinking, comm systems. So I gave him a sit rep because that is my job. And Sean added critical information that that I may have overlooked. And then the action alarm went off. And no sooner had the action alarm sounded than it stopped. Now there's drama. There's no communication because the generators have failed and the emergency lighting and the emergency power supply comes on. But only 40% of the circuits is now available to us. So which means we've got a diminished capacity to do our job. But the main thing was to get the message across. So Jeff Neal said to me, Cully, I want you to do the following for me. Go down to the mess. Our mess was in mess 9, not like the gunners was in mess 8. And he said to me, I want you to go down there to make sure that everybody is up. And then tell them to report to their life raft station, to their abandoned ship station. I went down there and found some of the guys were still sleeping. Now it's difficult to explain to a person, listen, the ship is sinking, you need to get up and get out. And they didn't want to listen to me, so I tipped the nearest guy's hammock over and he fell onto the deck. And then they realized, look, this is serious stuff. And then everybody, got dressed, got up, and instead of going to the abandoned ship station, they went all into the WT office. The ROs, they always had to be different. They went to the ops room. Anyway, so once we got there, the people were directed to go to the life raft station, and Jeff Neal then made a fateful decision. He said to Sean and I, the two of you stay behind, the rest of you guys go and abandon ship. More panic. We're looking at each other saying, oh God, no, not again. Anyway, so the two of us stayed behind, and everybody left to their abandoned ship station. And then he said to me that I've got another job for you. And I said to him, okay, what is it, sir? And he said to me, I want you to go down to the mess. Our Petty Officer Michael Whiteley did not report for duty. I need you to be sure and come report back to me that he is either alive somewhere or that he's not able to come to the WT office, but go find out for me. So I don't know if it was bravado, a high sense of naval discipline, or just plain stupidity, but I answered in the affirmative, yes, Chief, which was normal. And off I went into alleyway number 4, which was the main alleyway. The wardroom was on the left-hand side, the galley on the right-hand side, and off I went. The hatch leading from alleyway number 4 to alleyway number 5 was clipped and dogged. So I had to open up, and the drill is very simple. You knock on it, and if it's a hollow sound and there's no water on the other side, then it's safe to go through. Once you open it, you go safe to go. You have to clip and dog it on the other side so that you make sure that if the flooding then occurs, that the watertight integrity of the ship is still maintained. From there into alleyway number 5, and that is where I met Chief Petty Officer Webb. Chief Petty Officer Webb was the NBCDI, the person responsible for the watertight integrity of the ship. And when he saw me, he asked me to help him to close all the hatches and watertight compartments that were still open I could not help him. And I apologized to him. I said to him, I'm under orders to do a specific task, and I've got to do that now. I cannot assist you. But what I will do, I affirm to you now, if I come across any hatch that's open, I will close it before I proceed further. He thanked me, and he went his way, and I went my way. From elevator number 5 into elevator number 6, same procedure. And then down into mess 11, down the stairwell, turn left, and then left again, and then you come to the entrance of mess 12. That is where the senior rate that was their abode. I could not go any further because the bulkheads were stove together. There was no way of getting in or getting out of that particular mess. So I was standing there. I had no leadership at that moment by myself, and I had to use my own initiative. And there was nothing I could do about the situation. So I put my ear as close as one can to the to what was left of the entrance, and there was no sound. So, ladies and gentlemen, I reluctantly had to come to the conclusion that the people inside they've either drowned or they're dead. There's nothing I can do about the situation. I can't get in, I can't get out. And I was standing and contemplating what my next course of action would be when some of the water was seeping through what was left of the entrance to the mess, because on the other side of the mess there was a gaping hole now. So the ship started flooding from that particular direction. And the water filled up until above my non-skid shoes. And the coldness of the water pulled me out of that stupor. And I said to myself, you need to get out of here, because if you don't get out of here now, you're going to suffer the same fate as the people on the inside. So I retraced my steps, went round the corner, up the stairwell, into elevator number 6, and then gradually. By now, the ship was in total darkness, and we had the emergency lighting, which was like a reddish type of glowing light that was available, and this guided me to what I was perceived to be the safety of the WT office. When I got to the WT office, just the look on Sean's face told me that he was very glad to see me, because he probably had given me up because I'm not coming back. And when I reported to Chief Neil, before I could do that, he said to me, "Okay, Kali, don't say anything." So I said to him, "Then why did you send me?" He said, "No, it's not that. Look down on your pants. Just above the wet line mark of my pants, there was a streak of blood on both of my the trousers. And it was the blood that was flowing out of the mess. And I couldn't see it because I was in darkness. But because they were in the light inside the WT office, they could easily spot it." Jeff Neal tried his utmost to maintain his composure. And he's never shown any form of stress. It was actually the highest form of leadership that I have encountered then. And even today, even when I was detached to the army and I did operational duty, I've never come across a person who was so cool, calm and collected under those circumstances. And it's just a pity that Jeff Neal is not here today. He passed away in February last year, so that I can pay the proper respects to a man who's done his utmost to make sure that the search and rescue effort carried on as it did. So now I'm inside the wireless office back there, and the three of us are there. Nothing happens. And we're just hanging around, waiting now, because that is a function of a communicator. And this is the reason why so many sparkers, in the event of this type of accident, goes down with the ship, because we have duties to do, back to the end. So Jeff looks at me and he says to me, "Kali, it is something you have to do." I said to him, "What, Chief?" He says, "First thing in the morning, get the guys to scrub the deck and put the coat of Mighty Bright on it, because here this deck is really dirty." And I was the main culprit, because there was FFO that was sloshing down the alleyways, and because of the task that had given to me, I'm the one who actually stepped into the wireless office with those dirty boots. And we're looking at him and saying to him, "Hello, the ship is sinking." You know. But again, it was his way to calm us and to maintain that composure. And then after what appeared to be an eternity, he went to the voice pipe and he said, "Bridge, WT, And there was this pregnant pause. And then Commander Myers was our XO then. He came on the voice pub and he says, "Guys, are you still down there?" I said, "Yes." Nobody's told us to leave. And he said, "Okay, lock up the WT office, secure it, and come up to the bridge." When I stepped into the alleyway, because it was Sean, myself, and Chief Neil, when I stepped into the alleyway, we found something extraordinary. Leading Seaman Lawrence Batchelor. The only conclusion that I can reach is that he must have seen me going back into the WT office, and he stood guard outside the door to the WT office. A feat of bravery and devotion to duty which is extraordinary. And he was never recognized for this. But this wasn't the only act of bravery that went unrewarded. Able Seaman Alan Van Leeuw was a very good swimmer. He was a lifesaver with the Snufferton Surf Life, the lifesaving club. And when he abandoned ship, he got to a life raft that was inverted. So we righted the life raft first, got it the right way up, and then he was standing guard at the entrance. And then he saw people floating past, jumped into the water, grabbed the person, brought him back. And he did this 4 times. And Alan was never recognized for that act of bravery. So if there's anything that needs to be redressed, is what the bravery and the devotion to duty shown by Lawrence Batchelor and Alan Van Leeuw. Be that as it may, now there's now one more with junior rate, so it's Sean, myself, and Lawrence, and the chief, and up we go. The design of a Type 12 frigate, when you get out of the wireless office, the next thing you get is a stairwell leading up to the commander's flat. And the stairwell was buckled, so it was very difficult for us to be able to get a purchase on the stairwell to get up to the commander's flat. But eventually we did. And then from the commander's flat onto the bridge. When we got to the bridge, we found the captain, the XO, and the engineering officer. Everybody else had gone. And we had no clue to the extent to which the ship was already sunk up until then, because we were inside the WT office. Anyway, the XO said to us, "Guys, go to the port sponson and abandon ship, but don't forget to take off your non-skid shoes and partially inflate your life jacket." Now, it's important for us to understand this procedure. If you don't partially inflate your life jacket before you jump into the water, if you're fully inflated, what actually happens is that the force of you getting into the water acts as a counterforce, and you can so easily break your neck. So we partially inflated, jump into the water, and then inflated once we're inside the water. We carried that out, that order to the letter. Sean jumped, I jumped, Lawrence jumped. And we actually didn't have to jump because the ship was almost entirely on its side. And the sponsons, that's a position where the 12.7 Brownings are also located. And from there, we stepped into the sea. So you can imagine how far the ship was leaning onto its side already by the time we did that. What then happened was it left the engineering officer, the captain and the XO on board. And Lieutenant Brushett also jumped into the water immediately. And then after a while, there was 2 further splashes, and that was the captain and the XO. The rumor has it that the XO pushed the captain into the water, then he jumped. I cannot confirm that. That was just what was being said. But it is quite feasible because you always have this idea that the captain goes down with the ship, and one of the primary functions of the XO is to ensure that the captain actually is safe under those circumstances. We then drifted for some period of time. We then drifted for some period of time, and eventually I got hold of Sean again, and the 2 of us were together. So if ever anybody is in a maritime incident of that, try not to be by yourself. Try to link up with another buddy, because the 2 of you can motivate each other and you can draw strength from each other, and that's exactly what happened. Eventually we got to a life raft, but this life raft was actually one of the 4 that was stowed exactly at the point of impact, and it malfunctioned. It only inflated in the bow and the stern section. But that was good enough for us because we could hang on to it and wait until such time that we were rescued. When we got on board, we actually found that Stompie Williams was on board as well as the captain. And somebody remembered that it was Stompie's birthday. So we sang happy birthday to him. It was his 21st birthday, which improved the morale almost immediately. And then about 5-10 minutes later, I mean, we lost track of time. It was just crazy because, you know, you're not even thinking about it. You're thinking survival, survival, survival. And then there was this huge cry. And what actually happened was the PK's bow lifted out of the water, almost vertical. And slowly she lost the fight against the elements. And it was actually very sad because for most of us it had been our home for about 3 years. And to see it disappear like that. In the meantime, the President Pretorius had inched itself closer to where we were. And they couldn't do the search and rescue method in any other way because there were so many men in the water. And the possibility that people could be driven under the screws was extremely high. The Tafelberg, the other ship that was involved in the accident, they had to sail off because they had a fire on board. And Warrant Officer Lamb is here, Mr. Moodley is here, Mrs. van der Heever is here. They were on the Tafelberg. And they had to first put out that fire before they can join the search and rescue effort. So the PP came downwind of us and stopped the motors and just calculated and waited for our life raft to nestle against the side. They had then released scrambling mess port and starboard, and we could climb out onto the ship and safe at last. We're now on the other frigate, so we felt a lot better then. We were subjected to a hot shower, and for those who drank, obviously a double tot of rum, and those who didn't drink, a cup of piping hot soup